Hello, how's it going? Mm. So, I haven't been making a lot of videos lately, mostly because I've been fairly busy. It's not for lack of things to say. Um, However, as I've said in a previous video, I had been spending a lot of time down in Virginia, visiting my dad, my mom, and um, my mom died recently. Uh, and So, I mean, I'm not, this is not really about that, but, I've been sort of, I had a lot of time, but I also did a fair amount, but enough time to make videos. And now I've actually started a new job. It takes up a lot of time, these jobs. And so I decided I want to talk about that. So I do have a new job. It's actually in Delaware. I won't give the name of it, maybe because they don't want to be associated with me other than hiring me and making, paying me to do work for them. But I don't really see the point in talking about it too much. Um, eh, it's a job with a large financial company. We'll just leave it at that. So I'm a little bit nervous. I've been working there for about 2 weeks. Uh, I'm not a finance guy. I'm an economist, and uh, it's not really a high level job. I don't know. I would call it sort of an entry level. It pays all right, pretty well, but then again, you know with all the inflation in the world, right now, it's who knows what it's actually going to be like. So they hired me on as a contingent worker, which is essentially a contract worker. I don't know why they call it, what the difference between a contingent worker and a contract worker is. It makes me a little bit nervous because I worked in another company up in New Jersey that they hired temporary workers and they kept on employing them. Basically, you were a temporary worker without ever like the temporary part. But sort of hidden in all that, it was that the fact that you don't really get any benefits. You're not technically their employee. You're just somebody that they pay a company to pay you, and you work there. Um, I think companies tend to do this because it saves them a lot of hassles like recruiting, um, and some HR stuff, as well as that without getting too technical, it changes their unemployment insurance sort of history, and they might have that raised if they hire people who don't work out. So I see this as like a 6 month job interview. At the which at the end I might get a full time job. I don't know I'd get paid anymore, but I suppose I'd get more benefits. So in the first 2 weeks, I haven't done a whole lot. I think largely because a lot of it's done on the internet, and they're sort of really tight-fisted with the controls and the like the permissions of doing certain things in there. And you have to deal with IT, and they're probably overworked. So things are as slow as molasses. Um, so a lot of it's just sitting there watching people do work, sort of getting used to the fact, the idea of what I'm doing or what I will be doing. I have been doing some things, and they're fairly easy, except for it's just things are not really explained that well, and you just kind of have to figure it out on your own. So you do have to be sort of a self starter. The people are fairly nice. I feel like I'm about 15 years older than everybody else. At least sort of the same level workers as me. Um, which is fine. It's just that I don't get a lot of the things that they talk about, or I don't. I've noticed that people maybe sort of 15, 20 years, they just have a different way of speaking. Uh, their their language is very laden with things that they saw on TV. I mean, if I grew up watching TV or having TV as a babysitter, these guys had grew up with the internet as their babysitter. So it's a totally different mentality. And I don't know. I'm not going to really, I don't like dumping on young people. I guess I'm not technically young anymore. I don't feel old, but you know, these gray hairs here will attest to that fact. But I feel like they're talking about, oh, I graduated from college a year or two ago. I'm like, ooh. I'll just sip my tea like Kermit the Frog. But so the future with this job is, I don't know. I'm not totally in love with the work. It's decent pay. The work is not hard. I think there is a lot of room for growth and a lot of personal improvement in the sense of, yeah, you could do this work, you could do it competently, but at the end of the day, you won't be doing anything. In order to get beyond this stage, you have to improve something around the office. You have to come up with good ideas of how to make things just more accurate, faster, um, just make life easier for everyone in the office, which sounds easy, but it's not as easy as it looks because I don't actually know what I'm doing. So it's hard to improve anything if you don't know what you're doing. So basically, the company is big enough that there are job opportunities, especially on the East Coast. There's one in Delaware, there's some in Philadelphia, there's some in New York. I don't want to move to New York. I don't, not a particularly a big fan of the New York City. Um, they have some work in London and in Edinburgh, um, but that's far too far down the road. I'm really just looking to sort of get comfortable. And if something like that happens down the road, then so be it. Um, so with that, I mean, I haven't actually got paid yet. I've been working there 2 weeks. I'm supposed to be paid every week, but as always with these things, I'm paid. The first paycheck's always a little delayed for some reason or another. I don't know why, but it always is. So I think I'll feel more comfortable once I get paid. Not only financially, but it'll sink in that I'm working rather than just sitting in an office for fun. Um, so anyway, I felt comfortable enough to get a new computer because the old one uh, was just a giant piece of crap. It drove me nuts. It would always stall. There were always problems with it. Just it started down. It would download these updates and it would never upload it. So who can't upload this? But it would be obsessed with downloading updates, but it would never actually load them because some kind of like installer program wouldn't work. So it would bog the computer down so much that it just it just drove me nuts. So anyway, I kind of promised myself the first thing I would spend money on was buy my wife a nice dinner, which we did on Friday night. We got Indian food. It was delicious. And buy a new computer. The computer came on Friday night. So it's like two for one on Friday. Friday was kind of a big day. And so anyway, it's bigger. Most people are trying to get smaller computers. I guess I'm an old man now. I kind of like it as it is. It's probably even bigger than the last one. The screen's pretty big. Um, it seems to be going well. Obviously, it's brand new, so it's not going to be bogged down with any like crappy software. And I just find myself to be a little bit like, hey, I haven't been shouting at a computer lately. Like it's kind of nice. I suppose that I paid. How much did I pay for it? 300 something. I tell you what, I don't know if the sale's still on, but if you go to Costco, my wife ended up getting a Costco membership. Just suddenly, hey, we're members of Costco now. It's like, okay, it's $120 for the year. You go there, it's very stressful to go there because people are just buying giant things, and it just like has the hallmarks of the beginning of an epidemic where all the you have these giant, you know, pallets of toilet paper and pallets of frozen fish. It's just an absolute. It's really stressful to go to places like that. But I saw that they had a sale on computers, and the same computer that I'd kind of been looking at. Obviously, price is a big issue. I ended up getting something that for about $150 cheaper at Costco um, than than I could have on the internet at a normal site. So I ended up buying it at Costco, and yeah, $150 of $120 uh, $120 membership fee. It's already paid for itself for the year. So I guess you kind of I would assume that it's probably best to buy your electronics there. That you end up it ends up paying for itself if you go to these places rather than Best Buy or off the internet. Who knows? I just find that the Amazon's just not a good place to buy electronics anymore. It used to be, but they're just the prices are going up. It's actually cheaper to buy stuff off. This is an HP. It was cheaper to look at something at HP, an HP site rather than an Amazon. So I don't understand that. That's the way it should be, but Amazon was so cheap for a while. But anyway, this is just rambling. Um, so I also got a computer for work, which is weird because it only been there for about a week, and suddenly I'm working from home. I'm not actually doing very much at home, so I kind of just sit there, read about company policies and stuff, and do some of their training modules. And you know, it's nice, but I do find that the cats tend to. I don't want to get. See, I have a little table here for my tea and I have a glass of water there. They're one of the reasons why the last computer was a piece of crap is because one of the cats, George, knocked over a big mug of tea and just totally ruined the computer. And I was able to get it back up and running, but the battery wouldn't work, so it always had to be plugged in. And it's hardly a laptop if you can't take it out and walk it around and go sit on your bed or on the couch or wherever. So I actually got a Chromebook for work, and it has a different operating system. It's not run off of Windows, but because I have a remote desktop, so you can log in and it just looks like your desktop at work, it's a Windows in the remote desktop. But unfortunately, just for um, very specific reasons, it's a bit annoying to work at home because you have to get into things and get out of things, and you don't have like three screens around you. And so anyway, that's I'm already complaining about a job that I just got, but I am very pleased about the work. To be working again, I feel like even though I'm doing nothing, I feel like I matter. It's something about work just makes you like human. Um, and if you've been out of work, you just feel like guilty about not working, being a burden to everyone around you, and you can't talk to people. I find that when I was out of work for a while, I couldn't talk to people because people would say, "Well, what do you do?" And you say, "I don't work." I'm looking for a job. Do you know anybody? And then the conversation gets weird because then you're like begging for a job, you know. And here I just feel like I can breathe. I can buy my wife a dinner. I don't. It's just such a small thing, but I guess it's a matter of pride, not in a arrogance type pride, but in a like I've done something. I contribute, and I can do nice things for people, and I have value. Don't. It's so sad, and I'll never forget being unemployed, and in the future. But the interesting thing about this job is that I didn't actually apply for it. It was just some recruiter found me and just linked me up with my boss to have the interview. I didn't think that recruiters actually did anything. I've never had a positive experience with a recruiter. And suddenly I'm I'm actually working. I can't believe it actually ended up working out. It's totally amazing. So in the meantime, I'm trying to maintain focus on things that I want to do. So I have a job. I feel a little bit more comfortable. It does take a lot of my time because you have to go down there. My wife works early in most mornings, so I sit around for an hour or so before work starts. I get to work at like 7:30, and I don't start working until 9. And I'm paid by the hour. And even if there was work to do, I wouldn't be paid to do it. There isn't any work to do, so I sit in the canteen, the cafeteria, and read a book for about an hour, hour and a half. And so I get reading done, but it's kind of early in the morning. I'm a little bit groggy, but beggars can't be choosers. They can't be complainers either. So I'm trying to maintain, I'm trying to maintain a lot of the activities that I had when I didn't have a job. Um, so typically, I like to read a lot. Um, I am a fairly voracious reader. We have a ton of books. Perhaps when I actually get paid, I'll buy a big bookshelf. Sorry, big bookshelf, and display all my books in it, and it'd be wonderful. The the layout of this living room is not great for bookshelves, so maybe upstairs. Um, uh, I do find that I'm a little bit constrained in time for my hobbies. So I have very strange hobbies. This is perhaps why I don't have a lot of friends. That's because I don't know anybody who likes the things I like. I do. I've been getting back into Latin. I did Latin in high school. I won some awards, which is not something you say on a first date. Oh, I won. I had a perfect score on the national Latin exam 3 years in a row. It's not going to get the women motivated to come back. you know. But then again, it was like the only thing I was good at in high school was that, and I'm pretty good at languages. So I was an English teacher in France and in Germany, also in Washington D.C. I taught at a school there for a little bit until a foreign job came about. Um, so I like English, the English language. I like French, Latin. I've been doing a little bit of Greek, but I've been getting back into Latin because it's easier than Greek. Mostly because a lot of I've done it before, but it's also like a lot of you don't have to learn a new alphabet. You don't have, the words are largely French and in English. Like so, most of these words, if you have a pretty good vocabulary in English, you will probably know a lot of these words already. It's the grammar, it's the word order. Anyway, I love doing it. So I actually have books that I had in high school. I guess I never gave them back. There's a funny story about that. I'll tell you later. But uh, yeah, I've been doing that. So I don't, it's not really a very social activity. I don't know many people who like to do that, but it does give me a lot of satisfaction to do. I've been doing the same with Spanish. I never actually took Spanish formally, but I did on Duolingo. I perhaps I can talk about Duolingo some other time as an English teacher. I don't know what the English part of it is, but I did the complete program of Portuguese, and I do not consider myself fluent in Portuguese at all. But I can read it pretty well, considering that how close it is to French and to Latin and to Spanish. I'm finding that now that I've switched over to Spanish in Duolingo, it's pretty similar. You just have to be aware that yo and yo are spelled differently. Some of the verbs don't mean the same thing or they don't have the same forms. But it is pretty fun. And I've actually started um, in Philadelphia. There's a small but decent sized population of Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. And I actually am picking up some words. I mean, I'm like, oh, I know what that word means, like, and I think that when you you're learning a language and you realize that it's real, not something. If you go to, let's say, Russia, you just hear a bunch of. It doesn't sound real. It just sounds like a bunch of robots talking to one another. But the moment you start listening and understanding and actually being able to contribute to the conversation, it's like a whole world opens up to you. That's different from your English world, or if you speak another language. Um, but anyway, so like I'm really excited about learning Spanish, and I if you've ever tried to learn a language, I think probably Spanish would be one of the easier ones. Um, but the availability of material on the internet is amazing for Spanish. Even Portuguese. The Portuguese are, the Brazilians particularly are very big on the internet, and they love metal. And so I actually see a lot of like conversations on the internet about metal, and it's just fun. I was like, yeah, that's right, Rock in Rio. That's a big, huge concert down there that's been going on since the '80s, and it's a big thing. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go down there. But also it's big in South America too, metal, particularly in like Argentina and Chile. So it's fun. I think that perhaps I'll just carry on with it, and I like to get my feet wet in languages. So anyway, those are two of my hobbies. I do have a blog, obviously. If you've ever read the description box on these videos, I find myself not being able to handle everything, especially with mom dying, the job, just trying to stay fit. So I have to go for a run today. Have to. I don't have to, but I feel like yeah, today's a is a really nice day. It's probably only like 70, 75 degrees outside. It's the perfect day for running, and I'm excited to have a holiday and actually mean something. So I'm just trying to get used to this balance of work and life that so many companies like to think of themselves as having, but that kind of depends on what your life is like. I find that I'm going to have to get used to this rhythm, but also I might have to make some cuts in my hobbies, and they might be painful. So anyway, that's about all for this video. It's just sort of an update, I mean, personally, about work and life and all that. So I don't know if anybody ever watches these. The view counts on these are abysmal, but I figure maybe, if we end up having children, that it'd be interesting to hear, a child to hear what your father was like before you were born. So the word choice on that wasn't that great. Anyway, talk to you soon. Bye bye.